Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have you around. And Nana Serwaa just joined us. Thank you for joining all the way from Germany. I have two amazing guests today. But before I introduce them, I like to say that this is Illuminating Africa. And if you're joining us, tell us the city you're joining in from. And if you've ever watched our videos before, encourage us a little. Tell us what value, whether you've gained any value from these 1 hour sessions, whether they are, whether we should continue doing them, so to speak. So Unity is Amharic for truth, and we used to call the truth interviews. We call it Unity Africa, telling the African story from our perspective and telling the stories of impact makers. And now we're going into the conversations that are trending in the nations of Africa. Today we're going to be talking about the E-Levy law that has been the subject of much debate in the nation of Ghana. So Unity Ghana is our first national issue conversation, and we do hope that will be a strong contribution to the conversation that is going on in the nation of Ghana and elsewhere. Now, today, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I came across an amazing article, an amazing piece of academic work done by the professor who is joining us today. And I decided that I have to talk to this gentleman. I have to talk to him, and I have to have people listen to what he has to say, how he's studied the conversation from an academic's perspective in depth. And he has given his views, and we're going to see his views today. His name is Professor Justice Djokoto, and he is a professor, associate professor of agricultural economics. I hope I got that right, from the Central University. And I'd like to give him the floor to say hello to the audience. Sir, we're listening to you, sir. Just say hello, please. All right.
Okay, thank you, audience. As was noted earlier, my name is Professor Justice Djokoto. I'm an associate professor in agricultural economics, and I'm in Central University. I've been here since 2001, and my research area is mainly in agricultural economics, technology, macroeconomics, technology adoption, and so on. But I also do a couple of things in the area of mainstream economics, in trade, in foreign direct investment, and in mainline. But my focus is actually agricultural economics. And recently, with the E-Levy that has come up, it's caught the interest of myself and my colleagues, and we try to do something there. And we actually working. We are looking at about 4 papers from the E-Levy alone, and we've got done one, and then the second one is actually in the mail. And so that's by way of myself and what I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a big honor to have you here. It's an awesome honor to have you join us today. I also have in the studio uh, an awesome friend of mine. He's done a mobile app that has a presence in 33 countries. No, not 33 countries. I mean, a fraction of about what, 25% of 33 countries, and is growing towards 33 countries actually. And he's done amazing stuff. I will not reveal it too much so that I don't breach any NDA rules, but I'll introduce him. His name, and I'll let him speak to you in this introductory session.
Oh,
Richard.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kenneth. I think I'm actually honored to be here today with Prof. Djokoto. And my name is Richie Duodu. I'm CEO of Finance Mobile. And what we do at Finance Mobile is we help individuals and businesses get access to financial services. We currently have operations in 10 countries in Africa. And just as Kenneth said, we are aggressively expanding to 33 countries. And I'm very honored to be here. And just as we know, this e-levy has been a highly controversial issue. This is an opportunity for us to express our feelings and think about the way the country moves forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. I also have with me Irene. I like to call her name in full. Nana Sewa Irene Opoku, right? It's I'll just let her also say hello to us. I'm glad she's here.
Um, Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kenneth. It's a pleasure to be here. I was supposed to usher this and host this August. Sorry.
Yes, that's work from home blues. It's everybody knows about that, right?
I was supposed to host this August session, but then fortunately and unfortunately, I have things around messing up with my whole day. So I'm Nana Serwaa Opoku, and I come originally from Ghana and an IT expert. An IT expert. So I'm going to
Sorry about that.
I'm going to join in, and we will discuss the e-levy, how it affects Africa, and see how best we can also chip in our conversation and help the nation in the little bits, in the little way we know how to. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana Sewa. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining in. So we're going to jump right into the conversation. And I'd like to say, wherever you are joining in from, just put a chat on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Put a chat on the chat area and let us know where you're joining in from and what you think about this conversation. Where we will be taking questions. If you have a question, just join in. Just tell us, ask the question, drop it in, and we'll address it. If you have a comment, do so as well. So we're going to start from this. We're going to start from Prof. This conversation from Prof. and ask about this e-levy. Everybody hears e-levy conversation. Everybody says mobile money is going to be taxed. Everybody knows it's a law. In fact, we know that the parliament, we have even some scuffle around it. So I want to ask Prof, from what you've studied so far, what does this law actually say? What does it actually say? You know, just please educate us a bit on that.
Okay, the e-levy is the bill actually proposes a levy on mobile money transfer as well as bank transfers. And the bill proposes to apply a rate of 1.75%. So anytime you transferring money from your mobile money account to another mobile money account, or you are making payments to anybody through your QR code, or you slot your card into a point of sale device in a shop or anywhere else to pay them for a service. Once that payment is effected, an amount of a percentage of 1.75 will be applied. That is 0.0175 times the amount of money you are transferring, and that will be applied. It also applies to transfers that you make in the bank, from a bank account to a mobile money account, or from one bank account to another bank account. So the levy is applied to these, so that once that is you are making those transfers, you are exposed to the levy. Indeed, the goal, according to the the memorandum that accompanied the bill, is that they would want to generate money to support debt repayment. We all know that the government is saddled with debt, the largest in the history of the country. And they also have a youth entrepreneurship program that they want to fund. And of course, in the bill, it is also stated that they want to support the digital infrastructure and also other flagship programs. And that which comes to mind quickly is the free school program. So these are the goals that for which the bill, the memorandum stated, and then that is what the bill seeks to do. That is in a nutshell. But let me quickly add that there are some exemptions to the levy. So, for example, if you involves up to 100 CDs cumulative, you will not pay any levy on it, which means that once you are transferring 101 in any day, then the levy applies. And that levy will be on the 101 and not on the 101 minus 100, which is the 1 CD. Of course, if you are transferring between accounts, and if those are your personal accounts, then you don't also pay the levy. And in case you are making payments for taxes or any charges that you are paying online on the .gov payment platform, you also don't attract that. And where there is a payment that is transfer of money from a principal to its agent or from the agent to its principal, in that case too, you also do not pay. So those are some of the exemptions that have been stated in the law. Sorry, in the bill, because it's not a
Bill,
pass,
yes,
so it is not a law.
exactly.
In the
It's a
bill,
bill.
yeah, in the bill,
Thank you
yeah.
so much for that. So, something like staff salaries, assuming somebody's paying salaries with mobile money, it will be impacted, right?
I
The
expect it
principal
should not be
agent.
impacted. I am interpreting. Yes, I am interpreting that to mean I am paying my worker and I
Yes.
send money to his account. I am
Mhm,
his principal and he is my agent. I
mhm.
expect that that should not happen. I'm cautious because it was not clearly stated, but if I interpret it within the framework of principal agent relationship, then I expect that once you are paid salary, it should not. However, if you are transferring that salary, part of it to somebody, your mother, whoever, once you are making the transfer, the amount of money would apply.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And if it's less than 100 CDs, no levy. If it's between your own personal accounts, no levy. But anybody, even your mom, even your brother, will be impacted by this levy. Now, let me turn over to Richard briefly. Richard's expression is telling us that, man, why are they doing this to us? So I want you to speak to this from the perspective of an entrepreneur who depends on this technology in a way. I'd like to especially welcome Francois Dapelgo. He just joined us. Francois oversees 9 countries in Africa in terms of technology, and he's going to be giving us his views on this conversation along the line as well. So, Richard, please tell us, what do you think about this? I don't know. I'll come back to Francois to say hello when he just fully comes online, but let's hear from Richard.
Yeah, the E-Levy is actually uh, a big issue here in Ghana, especially in the fintech space, the e-commerce space, and everybody is very worried about how it's actually going to impact um, these industries. But before we actually get there, let's look at the fiscal environment in Ghana. When we talk about the fiscal environment, we are talking about how government manages its revenue and expenditures.
Mhm.
In terms of revenue, governments mostly get their revenue from taxation and borrowing. So, yeah, mostly direct and indirect taxes. Then, in terms of expenditures, they mostly spend on salaries, paying their debts, then maybe buildings, other things, other corporate expenditures they have to make. But truth be told, as a country, we are not generating enough revenue. And I think this levy is looking to bridge the gap, bring in a lot more people, but the timing, we don't feel the timing is right. The policy is good, but the timing is just not right. And we in the tech sector are very, very worried about this.
Mhm. Wow, very worried, very worried. We are. Thank you for that. I will delve deeper into that shortly. So let me ask Prof. Richard just said something. And Prof, when you started, you talked about the reasons or the the intended use of the revenue from this proposed levy, dealing with issues of the school system, digital infrastructure, and all that. And Richard has just mentioned some other possible justification. I remember a conversation where one of the leaders of the nation said that during COVID we saved lives, right? And now we have to save the economy. So is this, do you think these reasons are valid for this levy? Do you think this claim of having to fix the economy after fixing or saving the people, are these valid arguments generally? Prof.
I must say it's not valid. And why do I say so? During COVID, yes, the economy may have suffered some downturns because we had blocked activity. There were I call it shutdown or lockdowns, and then activity was low. And because of that, people may not have moved on. But once the people have been permitted to move around, I think that it's not so much an issue. Moreover, the benefits that were granted, for example, giving people water, giving people electricity for free. Immediately in 2021, a COVID tax was introduced, 1%, and that was explained to cover the costs that were incurred on those goodies that we were provided with. And of course, during that time, the World Bank gave us about 400 million US dollars. That is going to cushion us. And so it meant that for the COVID, during the COVID period, we had money. And then after the COVID, we introduced a tax which was geared towards recovering the resources. And let's not forget, after COVID, it is not the case that nothing is happening. Businesses have returned. Some have even made profits in 2021 more than they had ever even made in their life or in the life of those businesses. So for me, I do not see it as a revamp. Indeed, when there was no COVID, we were still having taxes, we were still having activities, we were still having revenue. But remember, we didn't have 1% COVID tax when there was no COVID. We also didn't have $400 million from the World Bank when there was no COVID. Therefore, those comments, I think, in as much as we need to revamp the economy, yes, but they should not be justification for introducing the E-Levy.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you for that opinion. So, do you think there are other possible drivers why this is such a big contention in Parliament?
Yes, I think there are some drivers. Number one, Parliament on the side of the government, they do not oppose anything that the government brings. Therefore, it is known that whatever the government brings, they will certainly go ahead and support it. Number two, they have been conscientized that the E-Levy is going to do a number of things. And once they have been told it's going to do things, they will want to go ahead and support it. That is the second point. And thirdly, the idea about the fact that it is being brought by the government is something that they would certainly want to support. And of course, they have seen the kinds of difficulties that we currently face. And I do not think the current difficulties is from COVID. It's actually from the way that the economy had been managed. Because before, 2017, there was no COVID, 2018, there was no COVID, 2019, there was no COVID. And the bulk of the debt that we had accumulated was within these periods. And so for me, that is really not a justification. But that, I think, is the driver from the side of the majority. But of course, we also do know that there is a point that if they're able to raise $6.9 billion from E-Levy, they would use that to be able to contract a loan which is about 4 or 5 times that amount. So the E-Levy will now be a base for them to get additional money. And that is also one of the ideas that is in there. And of course, there's the conspiracy theory that these guys need money for campaign, and because they want to break their eight, and it's more difficult for them to win the next election than it was previously. Therefore, they want to begin to raise some money, find a way to siphon some, and then accumulate that for their campaign. So that is a conspiracy theory. And I must note, I am not saying for sure that, but that is also the thought of some people. So these are the ones that I think are the drivers, especially on the side of the majority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think it's getting hotter here. I will allow Professor to introduce himself, but before I do that, let me read Joseph's comment. He said, I had only hoped that this was addressed in the State of the Nation address properly before being brought as a bill to be passed as law. Given the fact that the global inflation is hitting everyone's pocket harder than expected, I expect this bill to be turned down. Most people will also expect income tax returns reliefs before the conversation of the E-Levy will be accepted to continue as a necessary conversation for smooth law. Thank you for that comment, Joseph. I'm sure we will want to comment on it later, but let me give honor to whom honor is due and just ask Francois to please say hello to the audience.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, Kenneth. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for having me. My name is Francois Dapigo. I'm actually a colleague of Kenneth. We work in the same office, and I'm a regional CIO for what we call CESA2, so the Francophone East Africa and Central Africa. So I work for EcoBank eProcess, and yeah, that's all about me. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very excited to be part of the discussion. Thank you, Kenneth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. He's the regional CIO of CESA, Central, East, and Southern Africa for EcoBank. And he will share his views on this very, very shortly. So we'll come back to the, he's very humble. So he said he's a colleague of Kenneth, but he's actually my former boss. So let's take note of that. All right. All right. So let's come back to Richard. The conspiracy theory. I will ask Richard and I will ask Nana Serwaa to chime in because I want to hear her voice on this one. What do you think about this conspiracy theory? I mean, don't say anything, I'll get you in trouble. But
when times like this, I can't really say anything about the conspiracy theory. But when it gets to times like this, we know government actually needs money. But what's actually, why are we in a situation like this? The main question I think you asked Prof. Djokoto was about, are we really doing it because of the impact of COVID on our GDP? I don't think so. Our economy has been stressed for a while. Even if you look at the debt to GDP before the COVID, we are 77%. That means that when we add everyone's money in Ghana here, when we sell everything in Ghana, we are going to lose 77% of its value. Yeah, that's it. And it's serious. And right now we are in the 80s and the country is really stressed. Let's put it that way. We are saying that this levy is going to bring over $1 billion. However, we have a tax component, the benchmark index. If we should introduce it right now, it's going to bring over $1 billion. So it really doesn't make sense. This is a tax that is going to affect poor people, rich people are going to bring innovation down in certain industries, the fintech sector, e-commerce sector, and everybody's complaining. I think this is the best time for us to reconsider our position on this particular levy.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. The billion-dollar conversation is an interesting one. I have a comment here from James. He first said that the digital transactions for 2020 were over $81 billion compared to 12.5 billion in 2016. As a result, the projected tax revenue intake is expected to be 1.1 billion US dollars in 2022 and as high as 4.5 billion from 2023 to 2025. That's a lot of money, right? So the next question you're going to ask is whether this is good or bad for Ghana. But before I go there, I'm going to give Nana Serwaa the floor. I'll also come around to Francois to share his views, his initial views. So Nana Serwaa, please take the floor.
Hello, Ken and audience. Thank you, and I'm happy to be here. So my concerns with e-levy tax, or what they call digital tax. Now we have a problem in Africa where we all copy blindly. Now, if I look at the trend, or what a professor would say, conspiracy theory, people are also saying that Ghanaians want to do this e-levy tax based on UK digital scheme tax. But the problem here is that, have we understood the digital tax UK has implemented or is implementing? That tax, as I read about it, is more about company tax. Now, the poor is getting poorer. And when I hear politicians talk about if you have 100 Ghana cedis, then you are not poor. That is political talk. Let's come down to the level where how much does it cost to buy meal, feed 3 times a day in Ghana for a normal home? Now, businesses must pay tax. Agreed. But if government wants to make tax, go after the businesses digitally. People are running Facebook businesses. People are running Instagram businesses. People are running businesses online. And technically, by law, they're supposed to pay tax. You don't double tax. Already, there are double taxes where the normal Ghanaian who doesn't know I have to do a tax return will end up never going for a tax return. So gets the money and technically use it on other things, which is already taxed, VAT, the 17%. We have the Mokola women, the Mokola Ye, as we call them, the Kaya Ye's, the low income earners who are struggling daily. They also pay tax to the government because tax officers go and take them daily tax. These people don't even do a tax return. They are not even aware of their rights. And these are the same people that are poor. So imagine a Kayayo who is from the north coming to Accra to work on manual job, earning maybe 5 cedis a day, sends 100 Ghana to a family member A, 100 to a family member B, or decides that I'm giving family member 200, 300, would all be taxed. Where does this person actually get his or her tax returns? These are things that government need to. The government is being insensitive. If we have to agree on this conspiracy theory where they want to use e-levy to get more money and borrow more, that wouldn't help. And technically, what happened to our gold? What happened to our natural resources? We have the red gold, which is tomato,
Mm.
brought in agriculture sector. We have our minerals, gold. We have the oil, which is also not doing well right now. Can't government regulate all those things? And also get the digital platform selling or the digital platform companies to be paying tax. Regulate that. That is what we're talking about, digital. You don't tell me digital, then the next minute you are charging me on services I'm using between my mobile phone and my bank account. What is the point? How did it become digital? Everybody would end up going to cash and carry again.
Mm.
Something that has been technically wiped out with time, thanks to mobile money. Now, my second point is the mobile telcos are offering a service to Ghanaians. Any service, there is a service charge. So when telco is charging for a mobile money transaction, it's agreeable. But really, what service is government giving? What are they providing? What are they providing to take such percentage? This is insensitive. I think they should go back to the drawing board, put things where they're supposed to be put in. When it's digital, if our politicians are telling us to go digital, let's go digital. And let's not push the majority of Ghanaians to go back to cash and carry. Because what this system is going to, majority of Ghanaians are poor. We are being called poor because majority can't feed thrice a day. Africa is being termed poor because majority can't feed thrice a day.
Wow.
That is it, per UN standard. So this will push them back into even more poverty because people are doing kayayo. Kayayo simply means headquarters in the local language Ghana. It's a menial job where somebody buys something from the market and somebody helps to carry it into a car or something and gets something paid. People are doing shoemaking, which is not on a grand scale, on a big platform. It's hand to mouth. So this E-Levy will not solve our problem, but bring us more problem because we have more money to be paid. And it will end up that, okay, all our children will end up being debtors. Because currently, the work that has been done by governments is way too much. We understand that, yes, government needs to borrow, tax, it's normal. However, there are some taxes that do not make sense. They need to please go back to the drawing board. If we are copying, we should copy right. That has been mine. Tax where and who is supposed to be taxed, not mobile money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that, Nancy. I always love the passion with which she speaks. We're going to take a short break for 30 seconds so that we can breathe in and out. We can see that this probably will impact those who we are supposed to be helping more than those who are comfortable with their 3 square meals, and that is very serious consideration for our leaders. Leaders should drive the country to a place where things are getting better for people, not just for a segment of the people. Let's take this short break, and then we'll come back and we'll let Francois introduce himself and continue the conversation. All right, welcome back. Thank you for that comment, James. Ghana is one of the fastest growing mobile money markets in Africa. Registered accounts increased sixfold from 2012 to 2017 alone. So the government sees this as a source of revenue. All right. Thank you for that feedback. And James is absolutely right. After Kenya, the M-Pesa story, I think Ghana is number 2. Mobile money is highly successful in Ghana. By 2021, Ghana had 47.3 million registered users, 18.4 million active users, and over $13 billion in revenue, in value rather, of transactions. That is quite insightful. So we're coming back to the conversation. I'm going to give Francois a few minutes to just air his views on this conversation. Francois, you have.
Okay, good afternoon again, Kenneth and team. I just want to make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me very well?
I can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's fine. So I will start by saying that, and as we all know and agree, tax by nature is a good thing. So it is good to pay tax. Why? Because we all need to contribute to whatever we have in common. So the roads, the hospitals, the services in the public area. So we need to finance all those goods. So tax is typically meant for that. So what each individual is contributing to build the society. So as a way of financing what is common to all of us. So tax is a very good thing to do. Now, coming back to the E-Levy as a tax, I would say that in as much as possible, it is a good thing to do as paying tax. For me, the timing is very, very wrong, okay, as somebody said. So look at what the government has done for the past maybe 5 years, investing heavily on gifts, investing maybe in certain reforms in the central bank just to support the digital industry, to promote the fintechs, the small companies.
Yep.
Now, as you can all see, the mobile money in Ghana has picked up very well. Okay, there is one that at times I can go out without even having some cash. As far as I have my phone, I have the comfort that I can pay for anything at any point in time. So, and it is for me beneficiary to the government to have people using being cashless. So in Nigeria, they were building what I call the cashless society. So for me, and it's very good for any government, because even manufacturing the cash, the notes and the coins we are using is very expensive for the government, for the central bank. So when we have a platform where people are using technology to transfer values from one person to the other, one company to the other, without going to the heavy lift of paper or cash, for me, is extremely good and very cheap for any government. Now, so when you are in a situation where the thing is just picking up and you start trying to put heavy tax on it, obviously it's going to have a very bad effect. So people are going to, first of all, we will have those who are going to protest against this tax. So they may have the means to pay for that tax, and they will say, I don't agree with that tax, I won't pay it. I will start using continue using my cash. Some other people don't even have the means to pay for it, as Nana Serwaa said before. So we are in a very poor country. So not every Ghanaian has the means to feed himself. Not talking of maybe putting a lot of cash in taxes. So for me, the timing is very wrong. And to that extent, I think the government needs to be more creative. So if the objective is to raise more money for whatever, to build schools, to hospitals or so, why can't we find another way of doing it, right? So if, for instance, I'm transferring money on Momo and I'm supposed to pay 1% to MTN, okay? So is it VAT inclusive? If yes, we are already collecting tax about the transactions. Why another levy again? This is one. Secondly, if you look at in Africa, the way our governments, our standard of living as governments, I think we are very expensive. As in, if you look at our MPs,
Mhm.
our ministers, director generals, we all have B8s. So if you look at Africa, that contains so many poor countries in this world, why should an MP in Burkina, for instance, be driving a V8? Okay, so are you in the US? I'm not even sure that a minister in the US would drive a V8 per se. So our standard of living is very, very high. When our public administration, we are running it at very expensive costs. And I think this is where we need to look at and maybe streamline some of the way we do expenses to save money instead of pushing this levy to the population. So again, timing is wrong, and we need to be creative about raising money, not putting e-levy on this industry at this point in time. For me, it's very, very, very wrong. Before you know, the trend of the growth we are having on that those type of transactions will decline heavily, and that will be very expensive than the money we're trying to live to raise. So this is my first statement. So Kenneth, please have the
All
floor.
right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that so much. So, Ghana built up a digital economy over the last probably 5 years. It's significant. Almost everything can be done digitally. So much interoperability, bank to mobile and so forth. Now, Francois is saying that look, if Ghana proceeds in this trajectory of making it expensive to do digital, the way the people have embraced digital might recoil. Let me come back to Prof and ask about what other
Yeah.
nations are doing. So in your paper, you gave examples of other nations that have taxed. I want to ask basically, what do you think the positive, the negative impact of this tax will be on Ghana, and how has it worked out for other nations? Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. The Of course, in other African countries, the most recent is Cameroon. They have also introduced the tax, and theirs is as low as 0.2. And then before that was Tanzania, that also introduced one, but theirs is at 2.0. So that of Tanzania is higher than that of Ghana, and that of Cameroon is low, that is 0.2. That was just done in January 2022. Now, if e-levy is introduced, some money will be made. But as we had explained, the tax is actually not justified. And in Uganda, that the tax was introduced, they had experienced about 44% decline in the usage of Momo when the tax was introduced after a couple of weeks. In our study, we found that more than 60% of the respondents said that they would discontinue the usage of Momo altogether if the tax is pegged at 1.75. Now, if you have more than 62% of your users saying that they will not patronize it, then it means that there is a decline. Indeed, e-levy has already not happened, but we understand that in December there was a decline in in e-momo transactions of up to 3 billion Ghana cities. And when the tax has not even introduced, but the fear makes people go out of it, then it means that when it's actually introduced, you're going to see people carry out whatever they had intended. So obviously, it's going to cause a decline in mobile money transaction, to cause a decline in bank transfers, and it will rather bring onto bring back the usage of currency, cash. People will be carrying cash around. But carrying cash is not good for the economy. The reason is this: if you have cash in your hand, it is not in the banking system. Therefore, when government wants to control inflation, they have difficulty controlling inflation because they will then have to resort to open market operations, which takes a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And their efficiency is not as high as if they do these through the banking system. Now, if I am having cash and I don't send it to the bank, then the bank will also not be able to mobilize resources. Therefore, it will be more expensive for banks to raise money in order to loan to those who need it. In fact, the excuse or the goal that it will be used for digital infrastructure itself is questionable. Because if you introduce a tax that would cause people not to use digital infrastructure, yet you say you want to use that to build digital infrastructure, then it's illogical. But the important thing is a talk tax was introduced in this country a couple of years ago, and we were told that it was meant to build digital infrastructure. So what happened to that tax? What is being used for? What has happened? And now we want to reintroduce. So indeed, if we do so, we're going to create problems for ourselves. If our people's how much people have to spend will decline, and when the money declines, then they have less to spend on the on the goods and services, and which will have some implications for the economy. More importantly, we notice that when government takes taxes, that tax is not able to transform to build the economy. One of our brothers said in Africa, the ministers live too expensive lives. And you can imagine they are going to spend it on that. So I think that the implication, if the tax is introduced, is going to be more negative than the positive one that we expect to see. I want to allow some time so that I will get back to what alternatives government has. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just as a follow-up to this question, assuming this bill is not passed, to what extent do you think it will affect the budget for 2022?
Now, this bill is supposed to to raise 6.9 billion Ghana cedis. That is just a small fraction of the total budget, the total revenue that government intends to create. Therefore, for me, that loss is insignificant. Let's remember that every year there is growth in other taxes, including payee. In fact, during during COVID, we noticed the greatest improvement in payee tax over the past 6 years, which means that even COVID brought Ghana more payee tax than during periods that COVID hadn't happened. Therefore, that will not happen. In fact, naturally, there's growth in taxes. There's growth in tax revenue. And now that we are improving digitalization, more and more people are being rolled over into the digital system. And that in itself is going to generate increased revenue. So for me, that loss of money is really not something that is important. Indeed, trying to generate 6.9 billion, which I even doubt would ever happen, because the number of people who will discontinue using Momo, you will not get that. And so I think that not having it is really not a really big deal. But having it is more a big deal. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Prof. I appreciate that so much. I'm going to turn over to Richard, and I'm going to ask, what is your response going to be? As a tech entrepreneur, what are you likely to do? What are you likely to experience, and what are you likely to do if this bill is passed?
Okay, so Kenneth, so right now we have over 300,000 people who are directly employed under the mobile money system. These are vendors who trade, they've actually employed themselves in the sector. Uber drivers today, once you pick an Uber, they are more comfortable taking mobile money from you than any other thing. Automatically, once we introduce a tax like this, you are clearing all these people from the sector. We are saying that the government is going to generate 6.9 billion cedis from this tax. Trust me, this is not realistic. Why am I saying so? Let's look at a country like Kenya. They introduced their tax some time ago, and the total revenue they've been able to, they are making just about $20 million from their E-Levy. And tax is on the transaction fee and not the movement of money.
Okay.
So when we say that we are actually going to generate 6.9 billion, now the 6.9 billion, government is the highest digital uh, platform in Ghana. We all transactions. So when you see our transactions, billions of dollars, it's actually most of them are actually coming from the government. Are we saying that the government is going to tax the government?
Mm.
This is not going to be feasible. We are not saying that we are not going to pay tax. Tax is a good thing. Let me show a graph here.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
So at the bottom there's a share button.
Yeah.
So
Oh, sorry.
yes,
Okay.
select the screen you'd like to share. Yeah.
My computer has a lot of screens, so I think this will take a. Oh, okay, let me just
Okay.
put.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. It's asking me for a lot of permissions just to allow it. Okay, so let me just go through the data. In Ghana, we have our total population is 30.8 million. The total registered taxpayers is just 2 million. So that means we have just about 5%, 5 to 10% of the population taking the burden of everyone in the country. We can't continue this way. The number of corporate taxpayers is just 45,109. Self-employed, we have 54,364 out of a population of 30 million people.
Mm.
That's why we are saying that it's not bad to pay tax. We really need to generate, but the timing is very, very bad. I think we'll get to more innovative ways the government can actually use to generate all these income taxes. And I think that's the best way for us to go. But asking people that everybody should get into the digital economy, we are asking people to pay with mobile money more. And we are also asking them that, okay, when you come here, we are going to pay more. When I pay for a good with physical cash, maybe I go to the restaurant, I pay with physical cash. I just pay 30 cedis or whatever I pay is done. But once I use mobile money as a platform, I have to pay more for that same transaction. We are going to see a lot of people going to drop out from the whole digital economy system because they know that, okay, once I put my money in here, there's going to be a lot of taxes. And naturally, people don't want to pay tax. So we rather have to do it the hard way and the best way, the most sustainable way.
Okay, thank you so much. But shortly we're going to ask Prof to give us alternatives to this tax. But I think that I think that there's a lot of comment already in terms of the impact of this taxation or impact of the taxation generally. How that fewer people are paying taxes in Ghana than expected. So rather we should be chasing the online platforms that are doing business and generating money, the large population of people that are not paying taxes at all, and all that, rather than introducing a new tax bracket. So we're hearing that. Nana, so you want to add your voice also?
So, thank you again. So, as Richard was saying, that the little or the less number of people paying tax in Ghana, and when we look at our population, the young population, there is unemployment, there is self-employment without taxation, there are online businesses. Like I said earlier on, if we want to do this right or do it digitally, we have to go after businesses that are digital. Mobile money can't help us. It's not sustainable because the majority of people that use the mobile money are the poor and they'll end up withdrawing. Now, we have one sector, that is the road sector, which can generate us millions without using human. We could propose an electronic toll, something I did, my team and I did on my master's degree thesis, electronic toll booths. where everyone pays their toll digitally. This is another form of tax generation for the government, and this is direct into the government account. No human interaction. That is more digital. Even currently, what we have generates government a lot. So imagine putting the digital toll in place. The government is going to have a lot because a lot of people use autos. A lot of people use normal road safeties. We can put all in place and let it work more of a digital toll booth. This will be another phase for the government to have tax revenue in a more diverse and more bigger platform than mobile money. 6 million won't do a lot for us. It can't even support the free SHS or free. The problem with government is when you say anything, they don't listen. All they say is you have free SHS. Free SHS is nothing. If we are copying, we should copyright as always. Other governments in Finland, it is free. Free education. Free education is a right. It shouldn't be tied down to some kind of tax and revenue. So if E-Levy doesn't materialize, are we saying free SHS will not continue? Those
Thank
are
you
some of
very
the
much.
questions governments
You
should
need
be
to
asking
ask. Awesome.
and be looking
Thank
for other ways to generate tax,
you.
get more of the people on board than the current 2 million or little percentage of the population currently on tax. Yes, tax is good, but we need to get everybody on board. And it will take the government to put system in place than going this way, the e-levy way.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Irene.
Kenneth, can I, can I quickly
Yes, yes,
leverage
please go
on what?
ahead. Please go
Yeah,
ahead, sir.
so I was about to leverage on what Nanasewa just said to say that I think the government need to be more consistent on the way they approach things. Why am I saying so? See a government who is by political color is liberal. So meaning that they are towards the economy, financing businesses. So they are not social democrats. And that we are inclined to finance social projects. So for me, if you are a liberal, you should rather take decisions that will boost the economy, that will let the people transact easily, okay, so that you will get an effect elsewhere, not on the tax. So when this government is saying, I'm going to do CHSS, I'm going to do whatever, and then you are liberal, and you are increasing taxes, it means that you are not even aligned to your how do you call it,
Philosophy.
your ideology, right? So for me, it's being consistent. And if you look at it very well, why people are protesting against it is because when people are having the conspiracy theories, it's all about trust. So we should all ask ourselves, what is the government doing with our taxes? What we could see in traffic is V8 and sirens paving the way for the MPs and the ministers to go. But what is the money going? So when you're introducing a new tax, how are you managing to account for it? Okay, how do we know that that money is being used wisely? So it's a matter of trust and being consistent with the ideology. And this is not only for Ghana, it's for all Africa. We need to find a way to gain the trust of the population so that when we're introducing such taxes, people will not protest against it, but they will align to it. But as far as we are wasting their money, then anytime, even if you introduce 0.2% as income, people will be against it.
Thank you, Francois. Thank you for that. Trust What have you done with what we gave you before you introduce a new one? That is a critical question. Let me just read a few comments from the audience before we come back to Prof. Lolawale Ayuba, an incredible senior colleague of mine in my previous life, he says mobile money is a different and new product from any of the services of the telecoms. Okay, so maybe there's an argument there that it doesn't work like what is already being taxed with telecoms. Please clarify. And James also says that small purchases and transfers under $16 per day. So the government, they see this as a leeway to build into the system for the most vulnerable. Interesting. Also, there's a comment here from James also that in their own studies, the government predicts that 24% of users will drop within the first couple of months, reverting to cash, but they will eventually return to digital debt services because of the benefit. Well, maybe that's what happened. We don't know. 38% of Ugandans use mobile money after introducing the tax. That's the reason why they dropped the rate to 0.5. You see, this is very interesting because what it means is that the voice of the people can actually influence the direction. So if you are in your country, it makes sense to speak. If you can't speak about the issues of your nation, it makes sense to speak. And thank God for social media that gives us the ability. The other day, we saw a journalist being harassed in the traditional media space. But thank God for social media that allows people to speak about the things that hurt them. Let's come back to Prof. We are going in the direction of solutions now, possible solutions. What alternatives, and some of our colleagues have mentioned some, what alternatives, in your opinion, does the Ghanaian government have to revamp the economy? Prof.
Okay. Two or three things. First is expenditure cuts. Second is increasing revenue. And this should not be confused with introducing a new tax. And then the third one is the combination of the two. First, about cutting expenditure. Government ought to cut expenditure. The number of ministers and the number of ministries is just too much. Countries with bigger budgets, bigger economies don't have those numbers of ministers. So government should cut the number of ministers, for example. And number two, they should check how much these people are paid. And I am really thinking, and I say that, look, the remuneration of these people, including their ex-gratia when they are exiting office, is a lot of money. And they benefit from salary increases several times that of the labor force. And such things are certainly not acceptable. The second is to increase revenue. Now, if you plug the loopholes, you get a lot more money that is coming in as revenue. If you plug the loopholes regarding revenue collection, they'll begin to save money. Number two, if you plug the loopholes regarding expenditure, you also save a lot of money. We do know that in the recent Auditor General's report, so much money has been cited as being lost. And that money, about 85% of it is actual cash that the government can get. Only about 15% is irregularities, but 85% is actual cash. So government has to collect those things, and that is critical. Now, the level of corruption is terrible, and the government must put its feet down. First of all, they need to repent themselves and ensure that people that they superintend over, the ministries, the agencies they superintend over, they block all those loopholes and then ensure that these things don't happen. And these are the things that they ought to do. I can assure you that if we go to IMF, for example, these recommendations are made are the very things that are going to happen. And if they want to cut expenditure, some of the programs that they have, they need to take a second look at these programs. Free SHS, for example. Now, if I feed my children at home and then they are going to school, then you tell me that you want to go and feed them in school. It does not make sense. Because when they are home, they eat. When they leave home, the food money is saved. So rather, parents should pay for their wards when they go to school. As long as they're in boarding house, they should pay. Government already gives free tuition, accommodation, and so on. That is fine. But the food that the children eat must be paid for. Now, if we do this, it will save government a lot of money. And these things have to be taken and they have to be noted. And I am of the view that cutting expenditure is one of the surest ways. Cutting expenditure, reducing the number of ministries, and then of course the number of ministers. And these things ought to be done. And of course, we are in the digital age and we are registering our SIMs and connecting them to our ECOWAS card. I don't like calling it Ghana card because on the card, I don't see Ghana card. What I see is ECOWAS identity card. As we are linking this to our mobile phones, we are actually telling the mobile companies that this is our identity. If the NCA has this in their system, they are able to connect it to the NIA, then it means that my identity is known. Once my identity is known, you can then link me to the services that I engage in for which I have to pay tax. And this digitalization in itself will enable them to identify people, their houses, where they work, and who they are, and be able to generate money from these areas. That in itself is going to generate a lot of money. And they need to perfect that act. And once they perfect that act, they are going to raise money without E-Levy. And for me, that is that is the way that they need to go. And I want to say something. It's touchy, but I think it's great. And that is to say that government, the executive, they should decide to cut their own salaries. When they do so, the message they'll be sending out is this: we are ready to suffer ourselves. Therefore, you also do something. If they are not willing to suffer, no one else will want to. The equal value or the equivalent value of those notes. But the moment they cut their own salaries, it sends a message. I hope they do, but that is one of the things that they can do, and that will change the landscape, and people will begin to have some kind of sympathy and they'll be willing to come along. Those are my comments regarding the alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. That's amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. We need to cut expenditure and stop losing money in taxes, remove corruption, resize the government downwards, and we need to even resize the packages that the officials are receiving. Then use leverage digital to expand the tax net. Amazing thoughts there, and they are going out there into the airwaves. Let's read some other comments. We have very little time left. James Wendell Brown, he says, very enlightening, Kenneth Gary. Did not realize the number of self-employed businesses was such a low number in comparison of population. James once again says, governments around the world very rarely reduce the size of their governing body. So most likely that won't happen. Additional resources for revenue, additional sources of revenue must be achieved. James also says, in Canada, children fall through the cracks. Some children still go to school hungry. So small meals like milk and fruit is available to them if they need, so they have sustenance to learn. Thank you for that, learning from how other nations operate. We are out of time. So I'm just going to take the final thoughts, 30 seconds each from each person. I will start from Richard. Your final thoughts on this conversation.
Okay, so why are we actually having this E-Levy conversation? The main issue is that just less than 10% of the population is carrying the burden of over 90% of the population. Let's solve the real problem. Today, I walk into restaurants, I pay for an invoice, I see a VAT component, I see a tourism component. But what should that this money actually gets to the government? These are the hard problems we are solving at Finance Mobile. And this way, I believe that the government should be looking up. We need a digital invoicing system, such that I walk into a shop, as soon as I make payment, instantly the government knows about this particular transaction,
Wow.
so that the business will is now enticed to declare the actual taxes, because I can't hide it. As soon as the transaction is made, the government just knows that this transaction has been made.
Wow.
I, and that way we are able to. It is this means that we are blocking the leakages in the system,
Mm-hmm.
because there's so much wastage. Just as Prof said, there's so much wastage. Wastage, people perform transactions, taxes are actually not paid. This digital invoice system automatically solves all this. And if I'm an individual, I'm selling to a corporate, can I just dial something to show that I have issued a digital invoice to this company? This is the way we should be going. These are difficult problems to solve. And I'm very good. I'm very happy to say that Finance Mobile is leading this particular front. We are coming with very good solutions in this front. But we need, this is the way we need. And in that way, we get a lot of people into the tax net. And of course, we are still, nobody will complain because we are still paying the old taxes. These are not new taxes. Just that the system is more efficient. I can't hide my money. I can't hide the taxes that are actually liable to the government. Right. So I think that would be my closing remark.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Sir Richard. So there's a digital solution to our digital taxation. Thank you very
Exactly.
much for that. There's a digital solution to our digital taxation. Let's also hear from Nana Sewa, if your final words, please.
Thank you, Kennedy. Like I said earlier, I agree with Richard. Problems need digital solution.
Yeah,
Like I mentioned earlier on, Ghana Road Toll can generate millions of money, millions of dollars for the government. I give an example as the Kaswa toll booths, where in a day, the journey between Accra to Cape Coast is a lot. People can go from Accra to Cape Coast more than twice or three times a day.
yeah, yeah.
Imagine putting a digital toll booth on Kaswa Road, no human transaction. Whatever you want to buy, a ticket for the road toll should be bought online or on a system platform. Like I said, it's a project I and my team did during our masters, which we did all the calculation, and it's going to generate the government a lot without human interaction. So it's good. Our vice president is channeling digital platform, but we need to do it the right way. And then
Mm,
the what do you call it? The experience resources should be put in place, not square hole in round pegs.
mhm,
For instance, people with ideas, people with experience in tech should
mm,
handle that. People who have knowledge on digital platform should be those handling that, because they understand which system should be put in place and which system are not supposed to be in place. That is the only way we are going to achieve whatever we want to achieve. That is also the only way we're going to have a lot of people paying taxes. And like Richard said, it's not going to be a new tax that has been brought for to us to pay. It's the old thing, but now being regulated. I'll give a typical example. Lidl here in Germany. When I go, I don't even get my what do you call it, my receipt or invoice on a piece of paper. They have an app. I just scan it and I'm gone. On this app, if I paid cash, it stays there. If I paid with card, it also shows there. So this way, government knows that client A has bought from Lidl. They purchase something for 7 euro. There is a tax addition. The government takes its own. It's automatic. You can't run away from it. And system needs to be put in place. GRA needs to put things in place, especially with the KIAs and whatnot. They are
mm,
paying tax. They should be put into the system. They should be educated on tax returns. No matter
yeah,
how small it is, they are also contributing their quota to Ghana.
mhm,
And they need to regulate everything. be it little or big. As for the big companies, a lot are also there avoiding tax. They need to go after them also. We shouldn't be shady and shoddy around this whole taxation. The number of people paying tax are less. The better we go after the right people, the best for us. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much, Anasewa. Much appreciated. Let's not be shady and shoddy about taxation. There are avenues to solve the problem digitally. Let's also hear from Mr. DePeldo. Final words, please.
Yes, thank you, Kenneth. I think today, if we are having this conversation, is because, should I say, as a government, we have expenses and we don't have enough money. So simply put, this is why we are introducing new tax. But the conversation and all the noise this E-Levy is making is, for me, it turns around trust,
Mm,
wastage of the money, and lack of accountability.
mm,
It is good from what Manasewa has said and what Richard has said to put some controls in the collection of the tax so we can get more money and collecting more money. Right? However, for us to get into more efficiency, we also need to have a control on how we spend the money.
mm-hmm.
If not, we are going to put automated system to collect more money. Government is going to have more money, but it's going to land again in V8. So again, the conversation about not having enough money is the quality of collection and also the quality of expenses. And we need citizens to put in place cash control to be able to reach a certain level of efficiency as a nation.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So our behavior needs modification. We probably don't need more money. We probably need more discipline about how we spend the money we have. Thank you for that, Mr. Pelgo. Let's come back to Prof to give you us your final thoughts on this conversation for this evening. Prof.
Okay, my final thoughts. One, government should bring down its size drastically, cut
Mhm.
ministers, cut ministries. It is very important. Two, they should look out for leakages and block them. There's a lot of revenue loss in the mining area, in the oil area. There's a lot of revenue loss. They need to plug all those areas to be able to increase revenue. And indeed, they need to put more pressure on GRA. GRA over the couple of years claims that they have exceeded their revenue. Can you imagine a government agency always doing so well?
Mm.
That cannot always be the case. It means that there is a lot more they need to do in order to generate revenue. These are the two things that I want to leave with viewers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And I'd like to thank everyone who has joined this conversation internally. I would appreciate you so much, Professor Justice Djokoto. I'm sure we shall have Prof again in other conversations. Someone mentioned the word loans, and my antenna went up earlier in this conversation. Thank you so much for being with us and for your insights. The paper that Prof has written will be available publicly soon, and we shall also publish it on our social media platforms. Do follow Unity Africa on Facebook, on YouTube, and us on LinkedIn. I'd like to appreciate Francois Pelgo for joining us and for sharing his thoughts so ever so gently and ever so uh, perfectly, communicated concerning this conversation. Thank you, Richard Duodu, CEO of Finance Mobile. And if you listen to Richard keenly, you probably have gotten some business ideas already around how digital can solve the problem. So if you didn't hear that, go back to the video and listen again at what Finance Mobile is already doing to solve the problem. We're here for solutions as well. Thank you, Nana Serwaa, for joining us. I missed it all. We had a conversation, and I thank God that you're able to join us. I appreciate you so much. And the next edition of the Ghana E-Native series will definitely be driven or anchored by Nana Serwaa. So keep following us everywhere we are. Keep joining the conversations. Keep sharing it. Keep engaging. Thank you for being with us today, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, sir.